Students, counselors, families, good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us for the Texas ACAC Virtual College Fair. This first hour is a panel presentation, and then the next 3 hours are our 6x6 Virtual College Fair. We're so thrilled that you're joining us for this. A few housekeeping items before we begin with today's panel. First and foremost, you are encouraged to ask questions of your panelists throughout the session via the Q&A button that you see on your screen. When you send in the question, it gets sent just to our panelists, and they'll work to answer the question during the session and at the end of the session as well. So make sure you type those questions in throughout the session. As a reminder, your camera and your microphone are turned off. The panelists cannot see or hear you. So if you do have any questions, type them in through that Q&A. We've got this panel right now, and then we've got the 6x6 College Fair happening for the next 3 hours. In each of those sessions, there will be 6 institutions, each presenting for 6 minutes. So we encourage you to go to strivescan.com/Texas and sign up for some of the sessions for the next few hours. If you can't attend, or if you're going to one session in the A block and you want to hear from colleges in another A block, you can also watch those recordings. We are recording this session and all of the sessions, and the recordings will be made available very soon at strivescan.com/Texas. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to my colleagues to start today's panel presentation.
Thank you so much. Welcome, students and families and counselors and educators. We're so thrilled that you've decided to spend time with us this afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Jones, and in addition to serving as one of the co-chairs for college fairs for TACAC, the Texas Association for College Admission Counseling. I'm also the director of college counseling at the Hockaday School in Dallas. I certainly want to echo everything that was just shared and thank TACAC and StrivesCan for the incredible partnership and collaboration that made this week's virtual college fairs for students in the state of Texas possible. We have over 200 colleges from around the country and the world participating. So if you're not already registered, please register, and we hope it's a really great use of your time and that you have the opportunity to learn about many different colleges. During this session, you're actually going to have the opportunity to hear from some of our college reps that are also participating in the college fair, and you'll learn more about the college search from these 5 admission representatives, and we will take Q&A, so please post your questions in the Q&A as we go. We're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to ask all of our panelists to briefly introduce themselves and the institution they represent, and share a little bit about what draws them to this work. Jose, will you get us started?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning as you're watching this video. My name is Jose de Jesus Gil. I serve as the Director of Outreach and Recruitment for San Jacinto College. And I think that one of the things that draws me into college admissions is really the ability to provide an educational pathway for the students that I serve. I really truly believe, as I said yesterday in yesterday's video, is that I do believe in the power of education. And I think that from what I lived in my lived experience and from what I see with the students, I see what it can provide to them. So I wake up every morning trying to figure out a way to continue to provide those experiences to the students that I serve. So that's what really draws me into this work.
Hello, everyone. My name is Conan Campos. I'm from Texas State University, and I also am an admissions counselor for Texas State. So what really drew me into the field of admissions was pretty much knowing that I could be a resource to students. I am a first-generation college student, so I didn't know that these roles even existed to go ahead and help me in my college search. So I was going in just completely lost, just nowhere to go, nothing to do. I ended up at Texas State, and then from there I received different help from the university to go ahead and further my education. And then I figured out that admissions was an opportunity to help out students that were just like me at the high school or transfer level. So I really enjoyed that opportunity to be a resource for students, and that's really why I'm in the position that I'm in today.
Hi everyone, my name is Jill Davis and I'm the Senior Regional Representative for the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. I'm housed in North Texas and I serve all Texas students on behalf of Illinois. This is my 6th year in undergraduate admissions and my 4th year with Illinois. My favorite part about working in admissions is the relationships that I have the opportunity to build. I absolutely love connecting with students and families and getting to know you all. That's my favorite part. I'm really helping students to navigate the process that's not always always super intuitive. Even if it's a family that's gone through the process before, things change, and we know that. So that's my favorite part, is getting to know you all and then helping you navigate this process.
Hi, everyone. My name is Courtney Rochama. I'm a Senior Assistant Director of Admissions at Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. I've been at Trinity for 5 cycles now, but Trinity is also my alma mater, where I graduated in 2016. I do this work for very similar reasons as my colleagues have shared before. Part of it is just loving to engage with students. I myself felt very fortunate to have a college counselor that really supported me through the process, and knowing that the college process, again, it can be really challenging for a lot of students and their families. I really pride myself on being able to work to remove a lot of the barriers to higher education or selective institutions in my current role. So access and opportunity is really important to the work that all of us do, and definitely is a driving factor for why I'm here with you all today. Very excited to chat with you and share some knowledge.
Thank you all for those incredible introductions. Let's get started with the first question. So as we're talking about the college search, what are some of the considerations you encourage students to think about as they approach their own college search? Jose, will you kick us off with this one?
Sure. Well, I work at a 2-year institution, oftentimes what we call a community college. And I think that what we can offer students is endless. It is so important for students to try to find the right fit when making such an investment in choosing a college or university that they want to go to. And I think that a community college is such a great idea as a starting point in students' educational journey. From a financial perspective, it is way cheaper than a 4-year institution. And oftentimes my admissions counselors say it is a third of the cost of a 4-year institution. And some of the great amenities that we offer is that it's close to home. A lot of these institutions that are 2-year and community colleges are in your backyard, right? So it's really right there and accessible. And the overall access to providing the same level of educational opportunities as a 4-year institution, as well as extracurricular activities, right? We think that a community college, you forget about that extracurricular activity aspect, but you'll find that at a 4-year institution as well.
Yeah, and to talk about the other side of the coin, apart from 2-year institutions, there are 4-year institutions. So those are your university style college experiences. So we have 2 different flavors there, if you will. We have the 4-year public and then the 4-year private. They both do offer their own special different amenities and also different research experiences, but for the most part, they are both 4-year institutions. What you can go ahead and achieve from them can range from a bachelor's degree to a master's degree to even a doctoral degree if you want to go ahead and get that PhD program. So it is a different avenue to obtain your higher education goals. So definitely keep that in mind whenever you're thinking about the types of experiences you want to have and the level of education you want to have as well. 2-year institutions are great if you want to go ahead and get into a place and then maybe you want to transfer, maybe you want to get a certification in a technical field that's not offered at a 4-year institution. So you go ahead and save the experience on money and everything like that at that 2-year institution and then get your degree as fast as you can. So it's great different opportunities to check out whenever it comes down to those 2 different types of schools. So apart from the type of school, one important thing to go ahead and think about is the location. 2 different avenues whenever it comes down to it. Like Jose was mentioning, 2-year institutions are going to be in your backyard. So you're going to see a lot of folks that you already do see at your high school on the day-to-day basis. If they continue on to a 2-year institution, it'll just be surrounded by the same folks as well as other folks who went ahead and decided to continue the education at a later date. So it's the folks just using that backyard experience to go ahead and get the education they want. But when it comes down to the 4-year level, there is in-state and then out-of-state. So it changes from that 2-year perspective of in-community, in-district to out-of-district. So to keep that in mind, in-state wise, Texas State is located in the state of Texas. So it does offer a different cost and everything like that. So think about those options whenever you want to go ahead and choose an institution. So apart from in-state, we do have out-of-state. So I'm going to pass it over to Jill to talk a little bit about out-of-state institution.
Yeah, I think if you are considering going to a four-year institution and you're looking at universities outside of your home state, which I believe for all of you will be Texas, as we are presenting to Texas students, you're looking at going out of state. There's a few things to take into consideration. One, of course, being distance. How far away are you comfortable in terms of going? My institution is about 12 hours away from where I live. And so that's a big conversation I have with students. Are you comfortable going a significant distance away? I think another thing to consider is accessibility to campus. Are there direct flights? Do I have to have a bunch of layovers? Do I need to take public transportation to get there? And then it's not a bad thing either way, but it's something to think about when you're thinking about what you're comfortable with and what your family is comfortable with. I think your parents like to have those conversations, like how quickly can I get to you if I need to? So something to think about when looking at out-of-state institutions. Next, I think something to think about if you're looking at going out of state is where that university is located in proximity to opportunities. Are they in a large city? If they're not, are they close to things that you want to get connected with? And then lastly, Conan kind of alluded that Texas universities are going to offer in-state institution for Texas residents, whereas out-of-state universities, Texas residents will often be looking at out-of-state cost, out-of-state tuition, and it does vary between public institutions and private institutions, but the cost will probably vary for you if you're looking at out-of-state institutions.
Another big factor that I think is really important to think about early on in your process is cost. And that's something that you might not necessarily have thought about initially as you're starting to navigate the process, but I always encourage students and their families to start talking about cost of attendance and what your family might be able to contribute to your overall tuition as early in the process as possible. One thing to think about is there will be some sticker shock, which is essentially when you go on a college's website, you go to see how much does this institution cost per year, and you'll see some number that seems quite outrageous, and oftentimes it can be outrageous, right? A lot of highly selective, smaller private institutions can be upward of $70,000 annually. It's really important to keep in mind, however, that very rarely will a family actually pay that full cost that you see on the website. Oftentimes, that is what we consider the cost of attendance. So it's not just tuition, it could be books, it could be if you're traveling from Texas to New England and you're going to need winter clothes, it might be your flight. All of those things might be included in that overall cost of attendance. And it's basically sharing with you how much does it actually cost for me to go to this institution beyond just what's required for my classes. There are a lot of institutions, especially highly selective or selective universities and colleges, that offer need-based financial aid that partly could be determined by federal grants through the FAFSA, but also could be private loans and private merit scholarships as well. Oftentimes, some of those institutions, while they might seem to be drastically more expensive, when it comes down to it, when you submit your financial aid documents, could actually be cheaper than some of your in-state options. So it's important as you start to navigate and think about cost, that you don't just go off what you see on the website, but you take some time to fill out a financial aid calculator that most colleges will have on their website. Talk to the financial aid office to get a better sense of not just what it costs to attend, but how much it will cost your family specifically to attend that institution. As you don't want that to be a barrier, but you also don't want it to be the reason to discourage you from considering an institution that might look very costly initially.
Thank you all. Brandon Mack he has joined us, which we're so glad, thank you. He's gonna take just a minute to introduce himself and then kick us off with the next question, related still to the college search, which is how do the academic offerings at an institution play a role in a student's college search?
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brandon Mack. I'm an associate director of admission at Rice University here in the beautiful city of Houston, Texas. I like to say that Rice is a highly selective a research university with a liberal arts attitude, so you get the very best of both worlds. And in kind of using those phrases that I just used, those are kind of related to the academic offerings that can definitely impact your college search. So you'll hear a lot of different terms such as research universities, liberal arts colleges, community colleges, associate degrees. All those things are related to exactly the educational philosophy of the institution. So you want to think about that when looking at a variety of different institutions in relation to what it is that you want to get out of your college experience. So for example, liberal arts institutions generally mean that they're going to give you the opportunity and ability to delve into a variety of different subjects, both deeply, but also across the board. Research universities mean that they're going to be primarily focused on research, but they still could also offer you that ability to go across a variety of different a variety of different offerings. But keep in mind that at liberal arts institutions, you can do research, and then at research universities, you can do liberal arts. But once again, it's about what is going to be that educational philosophy. So some schools may have a core curriculum. So that means that every single student must take the same courses in order to graduate, and then they will have their major requirements. Then there are going to be some schools that are more open or have flexible curriculum. So for example, me, I hate math. I hate math with a fire of 1,000 suns. So because of that, when I was looking for colleges and universities, I was looking for institutions that did not have that core requirement so that I could be able to take the classes that I'm really interested in rather than having to take classes that I'm not as interested in. So definitely when you're approaching your college search, especially from an academic standpoint, look and see what are those academic philosophies that are going to govern your education. So you're going to look to see, do they offer a core curriculum, and is that core curriculum something that I would be interested in? Does the school offer me the opportunity, ability to be able to do research, to do study abroad, to do all the different academic experience that you want to have during your experience? And keep in mind, definitely look into every single school. Don't automatically think, oh, because this is a public school or because this is a community college, that they won't offer those experiences. All these different types of experiences are offered at a variety of different institutions. So definitely do your research and look into those institutions to make sure that they have all the things that you want for your college experience.
I think if I can add just a little bit to that, when you're starting to look at institutions, if you do have an idea of what you want to study in terms of academics in particular, it's important to check and see if the university has, or the institution, either the 2 or 4 year, has the subject that you're interested in studying. And that's if you know what you want to study, and it's okay not to, but I like to use Illinois as an example. We do not have a bachelor's of science in nursing. So as much as I love to chat with students who want to become nurses, and I always tell them I'd love to see you on Illinois' campus, the truth is there's probably a university that's a better fit for them, or a 2-year institution that's a better fit for them that can start them out on that track to nursing. So I think it's important, if you have an idea of what you want to study, to do that little bit of investigation when you're looking at different institutions and see if they have that offering. Sort of on the flip side, if you have no idea what you want to do and you want to come in and just be able to explore your options, you want to check in and make sure that's an option with the institutions you're considering as well. I think that the vast majority of us are going to have the opportunity to come in as an undecided or undeclared student and do some exploration. But just know that if you ever have questions about that, it is always appropriate, it is always okay to reach out to an admission counselor or an admissions office and ask those questions, because all of our processes are a little bit different. And it's important to have a clear understanding of what the process will be coming in. If you don't know what you want to do, if you do have the opportunity to do some exploration. I think it's also important to maybe ask the question of, if I want to change my mind once I get on campus, what's the process of changing my major? Some institutions are very flexible and will allow you to change your major pretty easily. And some institutions, like Illinois, for example, we have quite an arduous process for students who want to change their major once they're on campus. So asking those questions, whether or not you know what you want to do, that's okay. But sort of doing that extra level of exploration into the academics, I think, can be really helpful when starting your college search.
Well, we're going to shift gears away from the academics for just a moment and talk for a few minutes about student life and residential life, if that applies to some of these campuses as well. But Jose, will you get us started by talking and sharing your thoughts about the aspects of campus life that you encourage students to consider as they move through their college search?
Yes, for sure. I mean, I think that one of the great things about the college experience is that you can not only focus on academics, but also have that community vibe and tap into a lot of the extracurricular activities that are available at all of our campuses, either college or university. And you will find that in every school that you will search, they do have an Office of Student Engagement and Activities that provide a wide range of opportunities for you to feel right at home on campus, whether that be through some clubs that, you know, that have the same similar interests as you, whether that be through like intramural sports, different types of organizations like student government. You know, you want to tap into those offerings in order for you to find that interest in that niche and that community that will entice you to, you know, to stay at that college, university, and ultimately succeed. So I think it's really important for students to take advantage of that. And if you're interested in sports, I know that a lot of colleges and universities have different levels of sports, you know, whether that be Division I or, you know, whatever that is. I think it's important to not only focus on academics, but also look into what will fulfill you aside from the academics and what will entice you to stay.
Building off what Jose shared, I think it's also important for you as prospective students to think about whether or not you'd want to live on campus, right? Some institutions will allow you to come in, take classes, be a part of the activities, but at the end of the day, you do go back home to your families or somewhere else, whereas other campuses, your life is on campus, right? And if that is the type of student that you are considering or the type of experience you're looking for, it's important to get a better sense of what students are doing on the weekends, what resources are available in the nearby town or the city. For example, at my institution, 95% of our students live on campus, right? So those are the type of institutions where commuter life is definitely possible, right? But it might not have a strong culture around commuting to campus. Oftentimes you'll find, especially in the college experience, it's not just about what you're learning in the classroom, but it really is about like your personal and professional and leadership potential, about developing who you are as an individual person, but as a community member. And a lot of that can surface and circle around residential life experience or the activities that Jose shared as well. So as you're starting to navigate, try to get a better sense of what exists at an institution beyond just the courses and the academics offer, and try to get a better sense of what life is actually like on that institution's campus.
Thank you. So all of us here, we spend our lives talking about this idea of college match. It's something that we're all very passionate about for different reasons and for many reasons. So I know we'll all have lots of thoughts around this next question. But I'm curious to hear from all of you about your own insights and thoughts on how a student can sense that a school is indeed a match for them as they've gone through all of this great college research. Conan, will you kick off with this question?
Yeah, definitely. So it's really just a matter of self-reflection at first. So you have looked within yourself, you decided my three big factors are location, size, and cost, for example. After you've determined those three different factors, you have checked and cross-referenced your list of schools to figure out which is your best fit within those. So definitely you can sense your match by figuring out those three factors. So that's one way to go ahead and know that the school that you're interested in is a match. Have that list ready, cross-reference, and then compare. I'm sure my colleagues here have a few different other methods, so I'll let them jump in and say what their best match making is.
I think a great way to figure out if a place feels right, as difficult as it is right now in a lot of situations, is to get on campus and see if it feels like a place where you would be happy. Not all of us are open for tours right now, so I think we would all highly encourage you to check out the virtual options that we surely all quickly threw together a year ago and have kept going strong since. But I think taking advantage of either the in-person options to get on a campus and see it, or a virtual option to explore a campus, can really give you a good sense of if that place could feel like home, whether you're there for 2 years or you're there for 4 years or you're there for 6 years. You're going to be there for a little while, and so you want to make sure it feels right. So I think taking advantage of the online resources and doing either virtual visits, or if you can, safely going for an in-person visit to see the campus and to feel the vibe, I think can really help you sense whether or not it would be a good match.
The thing that I would offer is, remember, you're the one who's going to college. So what I mean by that is that the feeling has to be really right for you, because this is an investment that you're making into your future. So of course, you want to do what's going to be financially feasible for you and your family. You do want to, of course, have the advice of your counselors, your teachers, your friends, and your family. But once again, it ultimately has to feel right for you. So what I mean by that is that, you know, if you end up hearing from other people, oh, this is the right place for you, investigate for that for yourself. And if it doesn't feel right, that's okay for it not to feel right, because once again, you're going to be the one who's going to be at that particular college, university, or institution for the duration of your education, and you have to be satisfied with being there, because that ultimately is going to lead to your success. So keep that in mind as well.
I would also add really quickly, get to know current students. As much as you can learn about a school on the website or even an in-person visit or from amazing reps like some of my colleagues here, I think it's really important to talk to the students who are currently living that experience and get a better sense of what they like, why they chose that institution, what some of their challenges are, what opportunities exist. That I think is a really good way to get a better feel of, you know, will you be happy there? Will you be well served at that institution? There are a lot of opportunities for you to connect with students if you are visiting campus in person, but many institutions have, you know, put through like either pen pal programs or connect you with students via email or on Zoom. There are definitely other ways for you to feel connected with other current students, not just in person. Social media is another really good way to do that as well.
Thank you all. So we've alluded to some of these great virtual resources that are out there and that we would all argue have been enhanced during this pandemic. And we're going to spend just a few minutes diving into some of these. And Jill is actually going to kick us off by showing all of you how to use a college website, what to look for and what to find and where to find it. And just a reminder, if you do have questions, please put them in the Q&A.
Okay, moment of truth. Can you all see my screen okay? Yes. It's just that moment where you get a butterfly in your stomach and then it works. So just as a quick example of what an admissions website might look like, this is Illinois' website, and every website is going to look a little bit different. So this is a great example. I think we'll probably have time to see another. So I want to quickly go through just a couple of things to look for when you're on an admissions website. You can always start at a university's website and navigate to admissions, but Google is a really good place to start. If you just need to Google Illinois admissions, probably the admissions website will pop up. In terms of visiting campus, probably there's going to be a tab that has the word visits on it. For us in particular, we're not doing in-person visits, so ours is strictly virtual, but I imagine that my colleagues will agree there is going to be a place on a website where you can navigate to visits. And if there are any restrictions for COVID-19 protocols for in-person opportunities, those will be outlined there, as well as the virtual resources. So look for a visits tab in terms of connecting with the campus, either in person or online. Next, if you need to contact the admissions office, there's often going to be a spot that says contact us, but if all else fails, my foolproof trick is to scroll to the very bottom of any website, and that's where you will find the contact information. I would say probably 99% of the time. So just scroll to the bottom of the main page. Contact information should be there if you feel like you need to reach out to the office. That's also where you're going to see social media. I think maybe Courtney earlier mentioned checking out social media. We work really hard on that content, so shameless plug, check it out. We often have current students, like Courtney mentioned. That's a great way to kind of see current students. Check out the social media, and that also will probably be linked near the bottom or someplace on an admissions website. If you're looking for things like requirements, dates, deadlines, how to apply, there's often going to be an apply tab. You can look for things like freshman or first year, words like that, or admissions requirements. Look for words like apply, freshman, first year. That's often going to be a good place to start when looking for requirements. Most of us would probably agree that the majority of our financial aid information is not housed on our admissions websites, but actually housed on our financial aid websites, which exist separately. But a lot of us are going to have financial aid links available on our admissions website. So it's a good place to start, and often they will direct you to the financial aid websites if you need more information. Last but not least, use the search bar. If there's anything you can't find, rely on the search bar. We have it there for a reason. My favorite example for us is that fee waivers on our website are kind of not hidden, but kind of a few clicks in. So I always recommend my students to use the search bar to find the fee waiver, use that search option, and the results will pop up. So never be afraid to use the search bar. I use it on our own website quite often. So I hope that's a good quick overview for you guys. And I think we'll have time for Conan to share as well a different perspective.
Awesome. Thanks, Jill. So yeah, I want to go ahead and share the alternative to search bars and websites, which is an admissions counselor, us, our lovely mugs. So one of the great thing about getting into contact with an admissions counselor is that they are your personal Google. So let's say you have a question specifically about how your certain situation affects your admissions criteria in XYZ semester. You can go ahead and search the website, and the search tool, like Jill said, is a magnificent tool. It will get you all the information you need, but the hard part, especially whenever I was looking, was interpreting all that information. Yeah, fee waivers are awesome to go ahead and find. If it's a quick form to fill out, that's perfect. But every institution does it just a little bit differently. So maybe for one institution, it's just going in there and finding that form and then filling it out. But another one, you have to do one or two things beforehand. So finding that information, perfect. But apart from finding that information, if you just look for admissions counselor, you'll be able to go ahead and see exactly how to find someone who is the admissions counselor. Specifically for Texas State, we have it set up in a way that you can go ahead and just see all of our admissions counselors in one place. But if you want to get a little bit more specific and you want to say, find your own counselor that is specific to you, because every counselor has their own specific area, you can go ahead and type in your zip code. Like, let's say, for example, 77007. So that is Houston area. So we have two different counselors for that area. And if you want to go ahead and see exactly which one will be yours, you can go ahead and click on their information, find out their email address, the phone number, and then specifically the territory that they do cover. So in this instance, territory does mean all high schools or two-year institutions that they do cover, like specifically for here, San Jacinto Colleges are covered by Daniel. So you can go ahead and see also the high schools that he covers. And then if your high school is listed within there, you can rest assured that he knows the information specific to your high school to help in that intersection of transitioning from your high school to the college. And he also is sort of in a lot of contact with your counselor at the high school level. So if you need any information from your counselor, but you haven't reached out to them yet, you can go ahead and reach from the other side, which is through the admissions side. So they can go ahead and be that little bridge from your college of interest to your high school counselor, and then vice versa as well. Definitely use your high school counselor as a resource to figure out who your admissions counselor is. Both of those folks are going to be your own personal Google. So use them as best as you can, because they definitely will make your admissions experience and college search all the more easy. So that's my little spiel on definitely choosing and searching for admissions counselors and how helpful we can be in your college search process.
Thank you. We have a few minutes, so we're going to answer some of the questions that are in the Q&A. And we received a question sort of about a college's understanding of the impact of COVID on a student right now. We know that this has impacted all of us in many different ways. And Courtney, if you can elaborate a little bit on how colleges actually understand a student's circumstances in this sort of current environment, that would be most helpful.
Yeah, I think this is a really important question and obviously has played a really big role for current seniors, but the impact that COVID have had on learning experiences and just personal experience of applicants will definitely continue to trickle in for years to come. I think first and foremost, it's really important to remember that context matters to admissions reps, and more often than not, you'll find that folks want to know that additional information, those challenges that you have faced during the process, because it helps us make more informed decisions. We know that a lot of students, your curriculum has changed. Maybe you're taking classes solely online, and the classes that used to be available to you in person may no longer be available to you now that you're in an online setting. And that's okay. We want you to make sure that you're taking the courses that you're definitely going to be able to do well in, and that you're challenging yourself to the best of ability. But know that there are certain things that will be beyond your control, and colleges will be very understanding of that. The Common App this year did put in a community disruption question that basically asks how COVID, the pandemic, but also other challenges that 2020 has thrown at all of us, how that has impacted you. And that could be about your schedule. It could be about things that you face at school, but it also could be about the things that are happening at home. And colleges really want you to spend time on this essay sharing this information. It is so helpful. I think more often than not, colleges are going to be understanding, especially of the things that you have absolutely no control over. You can't, however, assume that a college will just know if you don't tell them. And so every opportunity that you do have to advocate for yourself and to share the challenges that you face, whether it's COVID related or not, I really encourage you to take advantage of, because we can't anticipate or read your mind, right? And so if you don't tell us, or your counselor doesn't tell us, we don't have that context that is really helpful and can be really critical to the decisions that we're making. But I would love to hear, from other colleagues if any other insight that they'd like to share on that one.
Sure, I'll tap a little bit on kind of like what COVID has brought to this higher education space. I think one of the things that students really have to also think about is contacting the schools to see what they specifically have either waived or kind of created an alternative measure in terms of requirements, right? Like a lot of these schools have gone test optional or kind of have waived some of the requirements, or how you submit the actual requirements, extended deadlines, and all of the sorts. So kind of really contacting the schools or that admissions counselor directly, right, and seeing how they can support you, or what are the new requirements, right? I'll give you a perfect example. Here at Jacinto College, we've waived some of the requirements when it comes to tests, right? We've had alternative measures that were provided by the coordinating board to take transcripts and take some of the classes that you take in your senior year instead of the TSI, which is a testing requirement. So really kind of talking to the admissions counselor to see what things have changed at the colleges and universities is really crucial.
One other thing that I would add is that be advised that we don't compare schools in our process. When we evaluate you within the context of the school that you're coming from and your particular academic context and circumstance. So we don't say that, oh, going to this particular school is better than going to this particular school, or that going to an online school is, better or worse than going to a brick and mortar school. We really look to, once again, understand you in your particular context. And you want to provide as much information as possible, because once again, all of that information helps us to better understand you and your context and your circumstance. And then going back to what Jose and Courtney mentioned about the SAT and the ACT, because that was a question that was put in the Q&A, it is going to change because, as we all know, COVID-19 is an ever evolving situation. So the key thing is that when it's your time for the application process, is to once again communicate with those institutions to see, well, what are their current practices? Because based off of, what's going on in the world, there may be a change based off of the availability of taking a standardized test or the availability of other requirements. So you want to make sure that you have the most up-to-date information with respect to what does that particular college or university is looking for in terms of the admission requirements and components of the admission process.
I think this is a great time to restate that it's always appropriate and always welcome to reach out to our offices and ask questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question. Reach out. We would much rather you come and ask and feel really confident going through the process than to have any doubts. We love questions. It's what we train for. It's what we live for. Ask us all the questions.
Okay, well, I've got one last question for this group, and I'm going to ask everyone to respond to it. You all are experts at virtual college fairs, right? We've all been in this for a while now. So my last question is what is your advice? What are your sort of parting words for students as they embark on this college search? And do you have any tips for how students can successfully navigate virtual college fairs or other virtual spaces and ways that they're engaging right now? Conan, will you start with us this one?
Yeah, definitely. So whenever it comes down to virtual college fairs, just one quick word of advice is going to be, don't be afraid to go ahead and go into them. Visit as many colleges as you can and throw as many feelers out there as possible. Don't count any school out until you've heard from them. So that's just my one quick little bit of advice so everybody else can get a piece of information as well. Go ahead, everyone.
I would say follow your intuition. I think that the great thing about us as humans is that we kind of understand and know where we're going to end up. And I think that is very much the same when it comes to the college search. And don't be afraid to ask questions. I feel like a lot of students get caught up in the fact that they have like this imposter syndrome. I probably don't belong in this school. Don't be afraid to ask questions. That's why we're here, and we're really happy to help you.
And when it comes to asking questions, ask that question that you can't find on the website. So really feel confident enough to ask that question about, okay, either I saw this, I want to know more about it, or, ask about the environment, because that's not necessarily something that you can get immediately off of the website. But that would definitely be my key thing, is to go a little deeper and ask those questions that you just can't easily find on the website. Because if you ask us all, because we are all selfish about our institutions, if you ask us how good a particular program is, we're always going to say it's good, because if we offer it, that means it's good.
I would say if a college rep shares their contact information with you, save it and use it. Don't let the conversation end once the Zoom call ends. Reach out via email, ask if they have time to meet with you one-on-one. This process is really not a bunch of robots, making decisions behind the screen. These are people. We are people making decisions. And the more that we get to know you, the better we can continue to advocate for you throughout the process. So reach out to us. We want to get to know you. We want to talk to you about what you're interested in. And it really does serve you better in the process if I can put a face to the name when I'm reading an application. It definitely makes me feel like I can advocate even more for you if I know exactly what you're interested in and why you might be a good fit for my particular institution. So don't be afraid to make that personal connection.
I think in a situation like tonight's fair, where there are hundreds of institutions offered, that can feel kind of overwhelming. I would say, specifically in like a tonight kind of situation, don't feel like you have to ask a million questions about every university. If all you can do is grab the contact information of the institutions that you're interested in tonight, that's still a win. And then do a little bit of that exploration on your own. Start with the websites, send an email asking your questions. That's okay, because I know that nights like tonight can feel overwhelming. So if all you can do is connect with a handful of institutions you know you're interested in and grab that contact information, then you're doing a great job.
Thank you all so much. Before I turn this over to StriveScan to wrap us up, I just want to say, students and families and educators, counselors, thank you for joining us. Most importantly, panelists, thank you for all of your words of wisdom and advice, for joining us tonight and most importantly, for the difference that you make in the lives of students. So thank you for all that you do, and I'll turn it back over to StriveScan.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for echoing all of your great comments. It was great. So thanks for joining us. Students and families, as you close this window, a very quick 4-question survey will appear. We ask for your feedback. We do encourage you to check out the next 3 hours of this college fair. It's awesome. There are some really great sessions. There are a lot of different colleges presenting. And as Jill said, even if you can't take in every single college, just go and sit back and learn a little bit about institutions during the college fair. You can go to strivescan.com/Texas. Make sure you scroll to the Tuesday fair, not the Monday fair, because that was yesterday. Scroll to strivescan.com/Texas down to the Tuesday fair and check out some of the A sessions, and then the B sessions, and then the C sessions. This session and all of the sessions that will be happening tonight will be recorded, and you can find that recording also at strivescan.com/Texas by the end of the week this week. Thank you all so much for joining us, and enjoy the college fair. Take care.